7 mistakes to avoid when photographing the Milky Way. Hello PHOTOPILLERS, Rafael, the bar here. If you avoid these 7 mistakes, you'll take your Milky Way photography to the next level. You'll be able to create images like this one, or this one, or this one. Ready? Let's do it. Mistake number 1. No plan. Truth is that you cannot expect to go out to a random location in a random date and go back home with a cool Milky Way shot. The secret here is to be at the right place at the right time to capture the photo of the Milky Way you want to capture. The secret is to plan. Remember what Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said once: a goal without a plan is just a wish. So use PhotoPills to figure out the right shooting spot and the right shooting date and time the photo of the Milky Way you want to capture occurs, so you can go and capture it. This way you'll be able to use the Milky Way to tell cool stories. How do you plan your Milky Way photos? Easy. Watch this video. Mistake number 2. No subject. I mean, don't get me wrong, photographing just the Milky Way is great, it's pretty cool when you're a beginner. But it gets quite boring pretty quick. All the photos look about the same. Including an interesting subject, an interesting foreground in the photo to play with the Milky Way changes the story completely. Suddenly the photo is much more appealing, much more interesting. It tells the story of the place you were shooting the Milky Way, the place where you enjoyed the stars. And different subjects give you the possibility to tell different stories. Look for ancient buildings and ruins. Look for beautiful landscapes and mountains. Look for cool rock formations. And if you don't find anything interesting, well, use a human figure. Long story short, and this is key, just go out there and find as many interesting subjects as possible. Subjects that are under a dark sky with no light pollution or little light pollution. And once you find them, start planning your photos. Mistake number 3. Neglect the winter Milky Way in the northern hemisphere and the summer Milky Way in the southern hemisphere. If you're only shooting the Milky Way when the core is visible, well, you're missing a very interesting part of the Milky Way. Yes, the core of the Milky Way is super interesting and powerful, and it looks great in the photos. And it's visible from end February, March till November, depending where you are on Earth. But photographing the Milky Way from November to February, when the core is not visible, is also super cool. The images that you'll get will be totally different, I promise. So give it a try. The Milky Way is visible every day and night, all year round. Let's take advantage of it. Mistake number 4. A too dark foreground. Unless you wish to take a silhouette of your subject against the sky, against the Milky Way, which is a great option too, it's always a good idea to capture detail in the foreground too. One way to do it is to shoot different exposures, one exposure for the sky and one exposure for the foreground, and then blend them in post. For example, I see many people shooting the foreground in blue hour nowadays. That could be an option. Another option, if you wish to shoot just one exposure for everything, the sky and the foreground, is to use 2 LED panels to add light from the side on the foreground, so you can capture detail in it. Also, you could plan to have the moon to add light from the side for you. Use the moon as a light source, a natural light source. In this case, when you're planning your Milky Way shot, you need to take into account the position of the moon when planning your shot. Given the position of the moon, you'll know the light direction. Planning your Milky Way shots to have a little bit of moon providing light from the side is super interesting. Give it a try. So tell me, what's the technique you like using the most to capture detail in the foreground? Do you shoot 2 exposures, one for the sky and one for the foreground? Do you shoot one single exposure, adding light from the side with a LED or a torch? Or do you use the moon as a natural source to lit the foreground? Let me know in the comments. Mistake number 5. Defocus the stars or foreground. If you make focus on the stars, your subject might appear out of focus. If you focus on your subject, the stars might appear out of focus too. So where are you supposed to focus? On the stars? On the foreground? On your subject? Maybe do a focus stacking and make focus on both the stars and your subject. Well, I recommend you to use the technique you like the most depending on the results you're looking for. For example, if you're not planning to print your Milky Way shot at a larger scale, well, I recommend you to calculate the hyperfocal distance. And if you don't know how to calculate it, watch this video. He explains what's the hyperfocal distance and how to use it to maximize your depth of field in your photos. Super interesting. Well, you need to calculate the hyperfocal distance, and if your subject falls behind the hyperfocal distance, I recommend you to focus on your subject. Because when you're focusing on something that's behind the hyperfocal distance, infinity remains acceptably sharp, so the stars will be acceptably sharp. On the contrary, if you want the stars to appear super sharp in the photo, well, I recommend you to focus on the stars. And if your subject is far enough from the camera, well, it will appear acceptably sharp too. And finally, if you want both your subject and the stars super sharp, then you need to focus stack. Shoot a shot focusing on the stars and another shot focusing on your subject, and then you blend them in post. This way your image will be tack sharp from front to back. And if you wish to learn how to do focus stacking, I'll leave you here a masterclass where Isabella Tabaki is showing us how to focus stack in many different ways. Watch it. Mistake number 6. No intervalometer. This is an easy one to avoid. If you're not using an intervalometer, internal or external, or a shutter release, it means that you're pressing the shutter with your finger. So you're introducing vibrations into the system, and vibrations might produce blurry images. My advice? Never touch the camera. Always use an intervalometer or a shutter release. Just play safe. This way you'll avoid all risks and get super sharp images. And mistake number 7, foggy images. Has this ever occurred to you? You leave your camera shooting a time lapse of the Milky Way, and the following morning when you check the photos, voila, surprise, half of the photos are foggy. No foreground, no Milky Way, nothing. The time lapse is ruined. The cause? Lens condensation. Due to the difference of temperatures between the lens and the air around it, drops of water condensate on the lens, producing this foggy effect in the photo. The solution? Super easy. Just use a dew heater strip band. Attach it around your lens so it heats up the lens and prevents moisture condensation on the glass. Not long ago I made a video on how to use these strip bands, and here you have it. Super useful. Watch it. Now, if you wish to learn more how to photograph the Milky Way, you can do 2 things. First, watch this video where I explain you how to photograph the Milky Way step by step. And second, I recommend you to download our super detailed Milky Way photography guide. I'm gonna leave a link in the description of this video and in the first comment below. Check it out. Also, these are just my 7 Milky Way photography mistakes. If you have other mistakes that you make, please share with us, share with me, with the community. Leave a comment below because I'm here to learn from you too, guys. So share your mistakes below. And as always, if you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next Wednesday in another video. And remember that you have the power to imagine, plan, and shoot legendary photos. Bye.